This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Friday, January 9th, 2026, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net to wrap up the trading week and get prepared for the big report day on Monday. But first, it is my discussion with Brandon Walter, the marketing lead for Pioneer Corn, as we discuss how Pioneer Corn stood up to all of the challenges this past growing season right out of the bag. Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Brandon Walter with Pioneer. And Brandon, could you remind me, please, your job title and role with Pioneer?
Yeah, so I'm the U.S. marketing leader for Pioneer Corn, based out of Johnston, Iowa.
So when you think about this corn growing season in Iowa this year, man, it was a wild one.
It was.
A lot of it came back to disease pressure, also the timing of those rainfalls that we had early in the season. June and July, very wet. Get to August, large parts of the state saw things dry off considerably.
Yes, yeah.
So what's your big takeaway from this growing season?
Yeah, well, I've told this to a few other people today. It's like, any more of the averages are the extremes of what we see. So as you said, lots of variability is what we saw this past year across the state of Iowa and really throughout the whole entire U.S. The good news is, I would say, is even despite maybe some of the challenges that farmers faced, our performance continues to be really, really strong. So if you look at our top 40 products that we sell across the U.S., we had about a 6.9 bushel advantage on over 23,000 comparisons. So the key thing I always like to say is for farmers is, yeah, the yield is important, but honestly the comparisons is almost as important. And the reason I say that is you think about a year like 2025, lots of different conditions, maybe different conditions depending on your geography. We want to make sure that farmers have confidence in our products and the genetics that they're going to be planting in 26, and we're bringing lots of data in local geographies to help support that. So Pioneer reps are really well armed with information that they've learned from this past year to help us better position products for this upcoming year in 26.
So speaking of those genetics and the things that Pioneer Seed can do coming out of the bag, this year, obviously, we saw southern rust across the state of Iowa. Big time pressure that we're not used to.
Yes.
How do Pioneer products out of the bag stand up to southern rust?
Yeah, so I'd say overall in a really, really good spot, especially as we compare ourselves to our industry peers. We are in a really good spot to, I think, continue to control southern rust. But back to your point, I think the other thing I think is important for farmers is we're making decisions in 26 is southern rust is going to be the thing that they're all going to focus on, or really how often have we seen southern rust to the level we did in 2025? So it doesn't mean we won't see it in 26, but I think we need to be careful. We're still thinking about tar spot. We're still thinking about northern corn leaf blight, gray leaf spot, some of those other maybe more common diseases that we see in Iowa. But I think one thing that has helped us is we think about, again, just continuing to test our hybrids. We got more screening than we've ever had in the past in regards to performance of our hybrids against southern rust, but feel good about where our genetics stand and how we are, we're able to go through the market this past year.
And there's probably some peace of mind for a grower, isn't it, that, you're dealing with a disease you don't normally see, still stood up pretty well. What's it going to be like when it's those diseases that you're more familiar with? It's probably got some capability of dealing with those as well, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, at the end of the day, the big thing that we always focus on at Pioneer is really around our genetics and our industry-leading germplasm, and of course the agronomics that come with it. So we want to make sure that these products are as well, call it bulletproof as possible when they come out to the market. But at the end of the day, too, there are going to be a few products that maybe we're going to have to manage differently or think about. And so I think that's where it's important to have that relationship with that local Pioneer sales representative to really sit down, build out a plan for 26 to understand, hey, what trait packages do I need for this farm? Maybe, hey, what am I worried about from a disease pressure from what I saw this past year or years previously? To really build out the plan for 26 so that we're getting the best success that we can have possible.
And when you talk about building a plan, getting in touch with the Pioneer rep, how tailored to that farm is the plan from Pioneer? Is it down to the field level?
Yeah, I mean, we like our old terminology we used to say all the time was right product, right acre. And no kidding, our Pioneer sales representatives, there's no one better when it comes to being the local expert in that community to understand, hey, this farmer, the fields that they're planting, the fields that they've been farming maybe for years. So a lot of times these Pioneer reps have a lot of history of maybe previous products being on these farms. And so I think a lot of it's, understanding more of what's changed within that farmer's operation that we need to be mindful of. But then also, again, sitting down with that local Pioneer representative that can give some of that local tailored information to the grower to make sure we're positioning it well.
So Pioneer growers this year still happy with yield numbers even in a wild year like this?
Yes, yeah, and honestly too, I think the other thing they've been happy with is even our new trait technologies that we've talked about. So a lot of farmers in Iowa have been planting Chrome and AcreMax products. We continue to have some great products in those old traits, but we've got a lot of success that we're hearing from comments around Power Core Enlist and Vorseed Enlist, especially Vorseed Enlist. I know like in northeast Iowa, we saw way higher corn rootworm pressures again this year. Seeing a lot of value that our current DP 4114 trait along with RNAi is bringing from a rootworm protection. So had a lot of farmers that were really happy with the results that came there. So again, it's all about germplasm. It's still about agronomics. And of course, we got to have the right traits to partner with it as well.
And with Vorseed, not the full rollout quite yet, was it? It was more of a slow rollout?
Yeah. So we had some introductory volumes in 23, a little bit more in 24. And then I'd say like this last year in 25 was kind of, I call it the next step in that direction. So as we move forward into 26, 27, farmers are going to be able to see a lot of different Vorseed Enlist type products or Power Core Enlist type products. And the nice thing about that too is we just highlighted the rootworm protection that we get with Vorseed Enlist. The other big benefit that we're going to give farmers is more herbicide flexibility. So these products can spray up to 4 different herbicide tolerances. So whether that's glyphosate, Liberty, Enlist, as well as FOP tolerance. So we know weeds aren't getting any easier to control either. So having options and tools in the toolbox is going to be important.
And that's one thing we know about farmers. They love to have that option to be able to do what they want to do.
You never know what a year's going to bring. So we want to make sure that our farmers are armed with options when those times come. So
Brandon Walter with Pioneer, my guest here today. Brandon, what's the best way for our Iowa viewers to get in touch and learn more about Pioneer corn?
Yeah, so first off, they can go visit pioneer.com, or probably honestly the best place to go is go visit with your local Pioneer sales representative to learn more about your products in your local area, as well as some of the exciting things that we'll have here in 26 to celebrate 100 years with Pioneer. There's going to be some local things that we're going to try to engage our farmers on, so stay tuned for those information as they come forward.
Brandon Walter, thanks so much for the time here today. Really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the convention.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you to Brandon Walter of Pioneer for joining today's episode of Ag Matters PM. It is time now for the closing markets, and I'm joined by Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. Curt, last day before the big report day on Monday. How did we trade in the grains today?
Well, full week. I'm wore out. I tell you, it's kind of quiet. For the day, we finished slightly lower on corn, down 3/4. Beans were mixed, wheat kind of mixed. But on the weekly chart, corn finished up 5 to 7 cents. Beans actually up 9 to 17 cents a bushel. And the wheat market up 9 to 11 cents a bushel. So we're seeing on the weekly charts some strength here ahead of next Monday's monthly supply demand report there, Mark.
So in the case of corn with the gains this week, do you point to the strong export demand there, Curt, or is that just positioning ahead of the report and maybe what traders are expecting on Monday?
A little bit of all the above. The big news as we started the week is the commodity fund rebalancing. Expected to see pretty big buying in corn, pretty big selling in beans, but that really didn't happen. I mean, beans held in there fairly good, but corn, with the news of strong exports, the weekly export sales report was a little weak just due to the holidays for the most part, but we're way ahead of last year's pace. So we'll take it. We'll see what the report says next week. Trade's looking for yield to come down slightly. And the only thing I'm picking up that's kind of a mixed bag is on harvested acres. Ideas are that the silage acres were down slightly, so therefore that corn might have been harvested. So we still have a moving target on the acreage amounts, but most are in line with reducing yield anywhere from 1 to 3 bushels per acre. We'll go from there. Sometimes these January reports can be quite a market maker.
And we will find that out on Monday. That report will be released at 11 a.m. On the livestock side of the markets, was it quiet there today, Curt?
Yeah, the cattle finished $1.50 lower on the fats. The feeders down 3 to 4. Hogs were mixed, but on the weekly chart, we had a little weekly reversal down, getting up some higher levels resistance on the week. Fats anywhere from $60 to $2 lower. Feeders finished anywhere from 70 to $1.70 higher. Hogs held in there on the weekly chart. Back in made new highs on the hogs. We'll see what the report says on Monday. They do give updates on consumption and expected prices on the meat side. But most of the action next week will probably be on the grain side, particularly with the U.S. numbers and South American numbers there.
And with that being said, at the same time, will we learn some things about maybe potentially, for example, feed for animals? We can learn some things from the reports on Monday and how that relates to the livestock side.
Yeah, you bet. Feed for the most part, and it has been kind of trying to gather some inventory in here. As time goes on in here, it might be a little bit more of a challenge to try to capture some good basis levels on booking feed needs. Then too, still watching that political picture too on the meats here on tariffs and whether or not we're going to see some other countries come in on importing meat here to the U.S. But won't be long. We'll be cooking out here.
What's the best way for our listeners and viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
1-800-779-1515, agmarket.net, and check out agmarket.net. Click on Intel because we'll have a recap of that report there on Monday afternoon.
Curt Kimmel, agmarket.net. Thanks so much for getting us ready for a busy day on Monday, and have a great rest of your weekend.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you to Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net for joining today's show. Let's take a look at how the markets closed today. And you can find that information anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
March corn closes down 1/4 cent at 4.45 3/4. March soybeans up 1 1/4 at 10.62 1/2. March soybean meal up 10 cents at 303.70. March soybean oil up 24 cents at 49.69. Chicago wheat down 3/4 cent at 5.17 1/4. Minneapolis wheat is down 4 cents at 5.68. Kansas City hard red wheat unchanged at 5.30 1/4. March oats down 3 1/2 at 303 1/2. On the Merc, February live cattle down $1.55 at 233.73. January feeder cattle down $1.75 at 360.73. February lean hogs down 58 cents at 85.30. February pork cutout unchanged at 93.75. Class 3 milk down 4 cents at 14.85.
That wraps up the closing markets for today and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content online at iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Dustin Huffman and Riley Smith, you've been watching Ag Matters PM.